Okay, a few more problems thinking about the order of operations and some of the laws of algebra. I hope maybe you've done these problems before you've started this video. One of the big things about question number 3 is that you understand that this division bar means that you should do what's upstairs, do what's downstairs, and then you should do the division. So be very careful. You have to take 7 and take away a -5, which means to add the opposite or add a +5, and 7 plus 5 is 12. 1 take away a -2 is 1 plus 2, that's 3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. The next problem, the -18 divided by 3, is a division problem, and I would be working it left to right because this and then this would come next. Many of us would want to get this done as well first. So 4 take away 6 or add a -6 gives me a -2 in that numerator over a -1. Actually, I'll go ahead and leave this -18 divided by 3. And now I'm going to do the division working left to right. So a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And then a negative divided by a negative is a +2. So I just don't write a sign here. It's a +2, but this minus sign is subtraction. So now I've got a -6. Take away 2 gives me a -8. I'm hoping you have a gut feel for that. You have $6 in debt, you take away 2 more dollars, you have a -8. But the process says to add the opposite, and now we're adding two numbers with like signs. They both are negatives. Their sum total is 8, and we apply that sign. Number 5, like a previous problem, we must do what's in that numerator before we try to divide it by what's in the denominator. So in the numerator, working from left to right, we would multiply first, and then, yes, this reads -4 times a -2. I'm going to go ahead and do the 4 times a -2 as well. So 2 times a -7 is a -14, and then I want to subtract 4 times a -2, which is a -8, all over this -9 minus a -9. You know, let's do both of those at once. So a -14, take away a -8, I'd add the opposite. I'll do the same thing downstairs. I'll add the opposite because they're both subtraction problems. Upstairs, a -14 and a +8 gives us a -6. The bad news, though, is downstairs I have a 0. And you have to remember that whenever you try to divide by 0, you have to tell me that that statement is undefined. I cannot do that. Okay, the 3 problems on the right side are a good bit harder. So remember, do what's in parentheses first. So I'm going to do these one step at a time. So 2 minus 8 is a -6. That's still in parentheses because that's got to be squared. I'll bring down my -3. And a -3 subtract 9 gives me a -12. Order of operations says I should do the exponents next. A -6 times a -6, which means squared, is a +36. Now I'm working from left to right, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. You can think of this -3 as a -3, and then just think of this as a negative times a negative is a positive, and 3 times 12 is 36. Or we could have thought of that as minus and 3 times a negative, or subtract a -36. The final answer to this one is 72. Again, do what's in the parentheses first. Don't lose those parentheses until you're all done. So don't take 5 minus 3 and get 2. You have to multiply before you do subtraction. So 3 times 2 is 6. Notice I'm just bringing everything down. 5 take away 6 is a -1. I'm done with what's in the parentheses there now. Minus 6 squared. In number 7, I am not asking you to take a -6 and squaring it. I'm asking you to take 6 and square it. 6 squared means 6 times 6. That is 36. This minus sign doesn't go anywhere. It was a subtraction sign. So now a -1 take away 36 or add a -36 gives me a -37. The only way you would have taken, if a -6 is in parentheses and I ask you to square it, then I want that to become a +36. but this was a minus 6 squared, not a negative 6 in parentheses squared. Also, number 8. The problem with number 8 often is that people just see this 3 times 3 and want to do it because they're so close to one another and they look like a 9 and they just should be done. But order of operations says to do exponents first. So let's do that. Now there is no reason why I couldn't have done a little bit of this left part most first, but this is a subtraction sign, and 5 squared is 25, and I'll bring down my minus 81. Now working from left to right, I have to multiply and divide, but divide comes first in this sentence. 27 divided by 3 is 9. And then next, if you don't mind, 9 times 3 is 27. And now I'm ready to do the subtraction. So working from left to right, 27 minus 25 is 2. And when I take away 81, I get a negative 79. All right, finally, this last question is quite interesting, and it's just asking us to think about a fundamental law of algebra when thinking about this problem with this jet. So let's see. A jet travels 600 miles per hour relative to the air. The wind is blowing at 50 miles per hour. If the jet travels with the wind for 3 hours, set up an expression for the distance traveled. All right, so please remember or just understand with your own vehicle that the distance traveled is always found by taking the rate of the vehicle times the time it traveled. Think about your car. So if you traveled 70 miles per hour, that's the rate in your car, and say you did that for 3 hours, then you would travel 210 miles. That's how you do that calculation. Also, notice that these words hours would cancel out, and that's also how I know that my answer would be in miles. Well, my speed for this jet is going to be 600 miles per hour. I'm going to do this just for brevity. And then it's going to get boosted by the wind at 50 miles per hour. And it's going to do this for 3 hours. So really what this problem was looking for you to state is that this is the distributive law. In reality, though, my mind, less any other friction, I would say that the plane was traveling at 650 miles per hour. I'm doing what's in the parentheses for 3 hours, and I believe that's a distance of 1,950 miles. Okay. Order of operations, add, subtract, multiply, and divide sign numbers in the laws of algebra.